Well, looks like this is who we have for now, so we should probably just get going. Yeah, so welcome. For the first two, we kind of went through installation and setting up hosting, and so we thought it would be appropriate now to kind of go through getting some assets into your world and maybe some good workflows for some optimization tips, looking at how we use Blender tools, things like maybe touching base on like how colliders work, and so this is Hyperfy.how. If you're not familiar, it's a good place to go and get some docs. If you need to go back through some of the other things that we had, and click on videos here. And if you want to offer a workshop on something, or if you want to see something, here's two tally forms. You can just click these buttons and they'll pop open a form that'll send to us. And then if you want to catch the old episodes, they're embedded here from YouTube with like the links that have stuff to do with them. So last week we did hosting and how he added all the stuff you talked about from Coolify. This is all from Rustan for the Flat.io and from HP here. So if you need to brush up on what was said, it's all there. And today we're going to kind of go over models and take a quick look at some of these places where you can get models, and what to look out for, what to maybe not do too much of. It really depends on the adventure you're trying to take. If you want, to have a couple of really flashy models and you don't plan on doing a whole lot in your environment, by all means do it. But if you're trying to get a lot out of it, maybe be a little sparing with your textures, especially, and with your triangles. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit. So Howie, what do you think? Should we take a glance over at some of these things, or should we jump right into Hyperfy tools on Blender?
Whatever you think is I'd probably better off to go over acquiring models first. Let's go in the flow that you would normally go. You're not going to have anything to bring into Hyperfy tools if you don't have anything to, no models. So I guess let's start there, and then work our way through the whole workflow in order,
Yeah, fair. So one of the most common places is Sketchfab, if you're not familiar. Another common place is Polypizza. If you guys want to tune in with a couple more, feel free. If anyone has ones
Model
that they
Resource
like.
is a pretty good one too, as well, depending on like if you're wanting, more game related kind of models and stuff. Old school. I mean, even some modern day. But yeah, that is a good one.
Model Resource is good for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Turbo Squid is another one, kind of on the same par as Sketchfab.
CGI Trader is another one of those, like Turbo Squid.
Yeah, totally.
You also have Fab itself, which is pretty much like whatever of Sketchfab, but it's pretty much like the UE Unreal Engine's marketplace of it. But you can still use Fab to get assets and stuff too. They just have more related to that, different platform styles.
Yeah, we could drop some of these on the side. Right, Fab. I mean, didn't they specifically team up with Unreal Engine and Fortnite?
Yeah.
They did, yeah.
Yep. That's why you may notice, like, you'll see sometimes if you're on Sketchfab, it'll say this item is also available on Fab. And you can get it pretty much the UE version of it.
Okay, so this is Sketchfab. You can kind of go through a bunch of categories of things you want. You can look up certain licenses, which is something to be aware of. CCO means you can use it all you want. You don't have to give any credit or attribution. And then there's varying levels of giving attribution, which is something to be mindful of if you intend to rip models from places. do as you please, but it's good to take note of what they ask for. Hey, like this one's attribution, Creative Commons. It's open for you to use. You can use it in whatever you want, but they request that maybe you mention their name somewhere. So been actually kind of tinkering with little things to maybe have an attribution board that's an app that kind of pops up, so you can click a little icon in the bottom of your world and it pop open like, hey, these models are by this person. So it's there, but it's not like in your face or anything, right?
You know, it would be cool for that too, actually. So we have these custom GLB properties. Having one where we can have a GLB property on there, like the creator, and then that could just auto-populate into a credits section in like the settings or something like that. You know, that would be cool.
That's a good idea. So one thing, yeah, that's a great idea. So one thing to be mindful of, I guess, like if you were looking, is like we were saying, textures, size, triangles. And so a lot of these models, a lot of these platforms will tell you like how many thousand triangles and vertices. They'll typically tell you how big the file is. You might have to, this one's not downloadable, so it doesn't say. But you can see on here if you can download them. If these are on like Fab, I think is what the orange is. If there's a $sign, they'll be for money. You can find pretty much everything here that your heart could desire. And then, yeah, another one is Polypizza. This has, low poly stuff, as the name would imply. Some of it's kind of fake low poly, I would say, in some ways. It's like low poly, but it's like the most that it could be. 30,000 triangle low poly things. You're like, wait, what's going on here? But yeah, you can find all kinds of things here. Polypizza's all free, I believe. There's a lot of things on here from Google and from other places. Bigger companies, people put things on here. I'm pretty sure they're all free. Most of them are either CCA for attribution or CCO. Zombie. Most all of them allow you to kind of twist and turn. Not everything has animations. And similar on here, like Doge was mentioning, there's a lot of kind of like old school game assets. You often find nice smaller files on here too, which is kind of what you're going for usually in Hyperfy right now. I mean, if you're trying to add complexity to your world as far as a lot of things going on, it's good to be really mindful of every texture and every asset that you're putting in.
You can still get things down to, maybe having a like visually, it doesn't, even if you're not wanting to go for like a low poly look or, something along that nature, you can still get those textures down in size to where they still look pretty good, but as long as it's not, 30, 40, 50 megabytes for a texture size, even after you've, touched it up, scaled it up, did whatever you need to, and then bring it in and like that, that's when you'll start seeing a lot of issues in the world if you've got a lot of items that have huge texture file sizes on them, even if it's a small file size itself for the whole, item itself. Whether it's
to clarify on that, like the real killers in textures are PNG files. Anything that has alpha to it is what's going to kill your texture file size. So if you can get JPEGs as your textures, you're going to have usually the best time. I don't know if WebPs will work as textures. Actually, they might. That might be even better. But the PNG is going to be your biggest killer in file size.
They work in the new Blender, and WebP was added as texture in the inputs on Hyperfy as well. So you should be able to.
Oh yeah, then that's the way.
You should be able to use WebPs.
And I mean, like that, even into exporting, like if you have it in Blender, and I'm sure we'll get to that here in a minute, but like, even if you don't know, I mean, there's ways in the export settings, you can just change it to JPEG, PNG, or web, whatever on your export options. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the Hyperfy tools, when you hit export from there, it automatically does GOB textures, I think, if I'm not. So yeah, kind of converts it into it. So, yeah.
No, right now Hyperfy Tools isn't messing with the textures at the moment.
Okay, so
that's something I can probably add in the future, but at the moment it doesn't do anything with them.
Oh yeah, DeviantArt. That's another good one. Classic.
Yes. Yep. What was the one you said? Let me find it. Oh, for skyboxing and stuff, that was probably big. The Polyhaven, I think it was. You said. Yeah.
Yep.
Polyhaven, yeah. Polypizza. Polyhaven's good. There's another skybox. Oh yeah, and then I guess we should take a quick look at the infamous Meshy.
Oh, the best.
So if you're not, so if you're not familiar with Meshy, you may have heard of, AI craze. You got text to 3D here. You could do image to 3D. You can generate textures of models that you already have. For example, the other day, I made a mariachi band. Was going to make some tacos. You get some weird stuff sometimes. You want to see the craziest taco? Wait for a load for me. Look at this taco.
Taco Sunday.
What's going on there? I don't know. Noka taco.
You can do image to 3D instead of prompt as well, which is cool.
Yeah, you could do image to 3D. We could say, I don't know, what are we looking for here? A smiling lightning bolt with a Glock. And yeah, maybe Scope can show a little bit of things on texture later down the line. There's some handy ways to use Meshy. You do get a lot of free credits. I think it's per month basis, so you can do a lot like this. Generating thing that I just did. It's going to give me 4 options. Was 10 credits. I think you get 200 a month. So yeah, just reset with the beginning of the month, and then it'll give it to you with no textures on it. Oh, look at that. This guy's pretty cool. Let's take this guy. We got a little hyperbolt with a Glock now.
You can also do the graphic setting.
Yeah, I think it was auto set
in low poly. It's pretty cool.
I thought I had it auto set to that, but I don't know. So it'll texture that. I think animation comes with a cost, right?
Yeah, everything's like $10 or 10 coins.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of meshy. Whoops, while that one's going, we can look at their other. You can drop a model in here and add texture to it, which is a really great way to take something that's very plain or kind of generic and make it really cool, because Meshy is pretty good at textures and it can save you a lot of time, at least to throw stuff up. So you can make simple shapes in Blender, even cubes, spheres, different polygons, and then texture them to give them more depth and more kind of the appearance of being more than they are, in a sense. Is kind of a nice trick to keep low on your use in the world. Not to say that Hyperfy can handle a lot. It really depends on how big and how much and what you're trying to do in the world. There's lots of tricks. We'll get later on in the series. We'll get people like Vox in here that have some wizardry as far as lighting and baking goes that you can do before you bring things into the world that just make them pop and give emissions and make the world glow, even though it's really just the building. Oh, look at our little hyperbolt guy. We need to throw this in
That's
your
actually
world.
awesome.
He's a vigilante. Look at him.
I gotta throw this in Doja's world. I got laser gun. It's got a hyperbolt. It's got a bolt on the gun too. Oh yeah, I love it.
Some true Wild West shootouts.
Yeah. Oh wait, I can do it here. Oh wow, fighting. Skill 3. There's no gun. It's all swords. I guess you don't fight with a gun. Oh, run and shoot. There we go.
This is why I wish now even stuff like this. Because I mean, with GOBs, I guess maybe hopefully soon we'll be able to do stuff like that where it's actual. You can add animations to GOBs other than not having to worry about it just being a VRM avatar. To actually use the rigging. I think that'd be a nice feature.
Wait, am I supposed to put the human over him? Oh, okay. I fucked it up. Put down the bolt. Boom, boom, boom. Next.
I think you could hit the little things to reset the values if you wanted to too.
I see here. What's going on?
This is like the advanced version of Mixamo. Mixamo can do this too. Mm-hmm.
They're going to be confused.
Unpopular opinion. I'm so tired of Mixamo. Well, actually, I'm sure a lot of us are. I'm very tired of Mixamo. We need a new resource. I love Mixamo. Don't get me wrong, but we've been using it so much. It's so overplayed.
Man, how do I do? Should I rig it to his gun? Can I rig it to his gun hand? Should I rig it to? Probably, huh?
Now uncheck symmetry on the right, and then you can move them.
Ding. Bam. Oh, we got some knees.
You want more closer to ankles with those A's.
With these ones?
Yeah.
There you go.
Give him elbow, shoulders, elbow.
Knees and toes.
Knees and toes, and confirm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, while that's doing the thing, what else we got? So we're going to go over Hyperfy Tools, which is a Blender plugin. If you're not familiar with Blender, it's a great 3D modeling open source platform. You could do a lot in it, and it can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but luckily Howie made this great toolkit that can allow you to do stuff. There is a huge community around Blender, and you can pretty much find a YouTube video on anything and everything that can be as quick as 1 minute or as long as 1 hour. You don't need Blender to make assets for the world, but like we were saying about being able to add detail or add your own touch or make basic shapes that you can then expand upon. It's a good thing to play around with, and it's fun. I think so.
Especially getting your items like ready to be brought into Hyperfy as well. You know, like it's you might need some things depending on what else you've been using to, but colliders, things along that nature. If you want, you know, stuff like that. Hyperfy can, in a sense, create colliders on items, but it would be through like the coding side of it. You know, if you'd had it on there, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's some of how it will show too. So you know, you don't have to actually get deep into the modeling, like I was just saying, you know, but it is handy for definitely things like that, colliders. Meaning, you know, if you're going to be able to walk through the wall of something, or if you can interact with it and grab it, you know, you're going to need a collider. And
speaking of the colliders, that's actually going to be the next major update, because I have a lot of notes that I've been taking on how those operate at the moment in the tools themselves. So the colliders for now will be when I demonstrate them, it'll be a like real basic, because it's going to be a big update on that soon.
Awesome. Oh my God. Look at him. Kind of pulling his dress back or something while he's walking. What's going on there?
A little weight painting issue, but it's all right.
He's a little sticky. He's like sticky.
He looks like he doesn't actually have a hole under that arm. It looks like it's all one piece of mesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like he's
agents.
That's
like
still pretty good
like,
for a non-symmetrical mesh, like quick rigging like that.
Yeah, totally. It's kind of like he's like holding his pants up while he's walking, sagging. I'll come and get you. Where's the gun one at? Now we can make. Or did we choose? I chose it already. Okay. Nice. All right. Cool. I'll have to throw this in your world later. But maybe we should move on to. So yeah, so you could do stuff on here, but we should move on to Howie, I think.
Let's go. Whenever
I'll
you're
stop
ready, I
sharing.
will. Yeah, stop sharing. I'll share mine.
Oh, sorry, Maximus. I didn't see it. I haven't been on Discord.
All right, so now we are here in Blender. You guys see my screen? Everything good?
Yep.
Yep.
Sweet. Perfect. All right, so let's start with how do you even get Hyperfy tools? So, you know, you're in Blender. You got it loaded up. Now what? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go down here to your preferences. In your preferences here is where your add-ons for Blender live, all your plugins and whatnot. Because we are submitted to the Blender Extension Workshop, you don't even have to go to any websites or anything. You just go right here to get extensions. And right here at the top, you'll see Hyperfy tools. Pretty cool that we actually are right here at the top. This is not from my bias filtering or anything. This is just how it is. So we install just like that, one click, and we have Hyperfy tools. Although this is not up to date. Interesting. My update did not seem to push, but we'll come back to that. That's okay. Oh, no, you know what? It is. Never mind. Ignore me. So yeah, install Hyperfy tools. Boom. You can close that, and now you have this new panel here in your end menu. When you hit N, it opens this, or you can hit this little button here. And you have a new panel down here, Hyperfy, and you'll see these new tools. We can ignore that for a second, and we'll start here in the tool menu. So we'll start with just a basic cube. You got this cube now, you got your Hyperfy tools, you want to get this cube into Hyperfy, and you want it to have, you know, physics and colliders. So you're going to start by clicking on your cube, and you're going to start from the top down. So the first thing is going to be your type of your rigid body. You got dynamic, static, and kinematic. Dynamic means it's going to move. Physics are going to act on it. You pick it up and drop it, it's going to fall. And mass will be how heavy it is. Static means it's never going to move. It's always going to sit in one spot, and that's it. Like the ground would be static. Kinematic means it's going to move, but only when the code tells it to move. It's not actually going to have physics. It has to be programmed to move on the back end or through code somehow. This just makes things more efficient on the engine rather than having physics on everything. So since, let's say we want it to be dynamic, we want it to pick up and drop, we'll switch that. Then we'll go with our collider. So the collider is what actually gives it some kind of solid mass in physics, and what that mass is shaped like. You have box collider, which is as basic as it gets, which is literally just a cube. It will look exactly the same as that. Sphere, it's a sphere. Simple, you can ignore for now. Like I was saying, this is getting an overhaul. And then we have geometry, which is exactly whatever shape it is. So right now it would be a cube because I'm using a cube. But if it was a monkey, it would be a monkey. If it was a lightning bolt, it would be a lightning bolt. It would be whatever the mesh it has. It just duplicates it. So we're going to select that because 90% of the time, unless you're getting custom with it, that's probably what you're going to do for quick stuff. Even though later on I'll explain why this might not be a good reason and why I'm updating this. But so once we got this set, we'll just hit create rigid body. We could skip this mesh settings. I don't even know if Ash said this is even working yet. It technically should work, but I don't know if he's got it enabled yet. In the future, this will just make it so that the mesh can cast a shadow and receive shadows. But you could just leave them for now and hit create rigid body. You'll see it move. That's because Hyperfy actually wants the source to be the direct center point here. If you were to take this now and move it back up, when you export it to Hyperfy, the bottom down here will be the origin point, and it won't be able to fall over. It'll be like a teeter-totter. It'll fall over, then flip back over, because the center of gravity will be down here. So the center of gravity is always at the origin point right here. Now that we have this, let me hide this ground so we can get that out of the way. And break down what you have now. Once you hit your create rigid body, you're going to end up with these. Let me get these out of our way too for now. Perfect. You'll end up with this. You'll end up with an empty called cube, whatever your model was. You'll end up with a collider for it. Another empty called LOD, which handles the LODs, which we'll come to later. And then you'll have the cube mesh itself. This is the basic parenting structure of all the Hyperfy models that it expects. And then each one has specific custom properties, which you can get to by clicking here, which is the object, and then scrolling to the bottom. And you'll see here custom properties, and you can see node rigid body on that one, dynamic type physics, and the mass. And if you go down to the collider, you can see it's a collider. Type could be trigger. We'll get to that in a second. Also could be convex. I'll get to that too. But this is just how you see it if you wanted to edit it. You can also edit it just by clicking on the object. And once you have a Hyperfy object, you'll see the tools change to an editor section. And they look different. So now we can go through and switch it to static if we wanted it to be static, the convex and the trigger, and set your LOD distances. Add your snap points. So now if you wanted this to be snappable, so you wanted every corner of this to snap to another block's corner. There's two ways you can go about doing this. You can click add a snap point. It puts it where it needs to be in the hierarchy, and then you can literally just move it wherever you want it. Obviously that's not the corner, but you would put it in the corner. You could just move it where you want it. Or you could, the other way that makes it a bit easier is you can take either your collider or your collider, or your mesh or your collider, it doesn't matter. If you go into edit mode and select the vertices that you want, in this case it would actually be all of them, and hit add snap points, it adds them automatically to all of them, which obviously, as you can see, helps that expedite that process way quicker. At this point, we could just export. So you could just select all your objects in the scene. So you have everything selected, and then hit the export GLB. Pick where you want to export it to. I'll just put it on my desktop. Cube test. Okay, and then we go over into Hyperfy. Let's get my desktop over here. And we have cube tests. We could just drag it in right off the desktop and boom, there's our cube. As you can see, you can push it around. Ready to go, has physics. If we were to duplicate this and bring it over, it should, boom, have snapping points. One that wants to go in the right distance, but as you can see, it has the snapping points. And they break back apart. Now, things don't stay together with the snapping points, but they do work when they're just stable. So now you say, how do we get, now that's good. Now, how does the LODs work, let's say? LODs, you see how they disappear as we get further away? This is an optimization thing. Like in GTA, when you're driving around and you see the city popping in little by little as you drive, that's LODs. So every object has actually multiple objects on it in different qualities. LOD 0 would be your best quality object. That's full, what you exactly want it to look like, full polys, everything. Best texture, all that. LOD 1 would be a little bit less than that, and then a little bit less than that, and as you go along, as many as you want, technically. Usually there's only like 3 or 4, depending on the game. So if we go back to our scene here, let me show this one again. It would look something like this. Let's pretend this is your sphere here, high quality, you have all those polys. This one's got a little less, and then obviously none. You just got a box at that point. This would be your LODs, right? So let's call this cube LOD 0. So this is important here. Naming, the Hyperfy tools uses this naming convention of LOD 0. And then LOD 1 would be this. Oh. This would be 2. And then this would be 3. Okay, so once you have them named like this, and let's get real fancy for a second so you can see how it works, although you normally wouldn't do this. Let's say this is your custom collider. If you had a custom collider you built for it, could be any shape or whatever, you can also call that COL. And then Hyperfy tools will know that's a collider. So now you have your collider, all your stuff. You select everything all at one shot. Pick your stats. You want it to be dynamic still. This collider doesn't matter actually because it's going to use that collider. So it's going to ignore this and create rigid body. Now we have under our LOD, you'll see all our LODs are placed in order here. You got your collider there. And you have now in your menu, all your LOD distances can be set here. That's how far away you have to get before that LOD disappears and the next one shows. Eventually, once you get to the furthest distance, they all disappear. So for that example, let's export this. Just overwrite cube test, that's fine. Drag it in. Or not. It does not want to drag in. Why? Weird. Oh, you know what it is? I know. All right. This actually brings up a very, very good point. When I get far away, it's going to work. So right now, Ash, if you're listening, LODs are broken. They are backwards right now. I meant to bring that up and I keep forgetting about it. But perfect timing because now we see it. Those cubes are in the world, but the LODs of the world are backwards, and it thinks LOD 0 should be the furthest point rather than the closest point, and vice versa. So now I won't see them when I'm close to them instead of seeing them when I'm close. And then if I got real far away, they'll actually show back up in the world. You could fix that yourself in the Hyperfy tools here and just reverse all of this, and it should work fine. But that's something that Ash does actually have to fix in the back end because that's a core problem.
Your ground is really captivating.
This ground?
Yeah. You made it one unit, right? One world unit. Yeah.
Yes, each one of these square blocks is one in-world unit exactly. So it's broken down so you can, get precise with the snapping and measurements and whatnot. Let's see, what else do we have on here? We went over snap points, LODs, creating them, export. We could do. I could show you what it is if we
colliders. Did you brush on colliders?
A little bit on colliders, but we're going to go over that again in a second here. That's what I was getting on. So let's get rid of this and let's get rid of those. Okay, let's go with colliders on this because this is a more advanced item to do colliders with. Get out of that thing so I can click it. Okay, perfect. So now you have this, and this is obviously not a cube. These colliders are going to be crazy. Let's start with geometry colliders. Same thing. It's going to be dynamic. You're going to get colliders on it. Let's hit create rigid body. Now you'll see that our collider, hide all this for a second. This is our collider. It's actually pretty intense. The more polys of a collider is going to really weigh down the physics, and it's going to do it's going to really lag your world over time if you have a lot of this. So you really want the colliders to be less. One or two of these just playing around is fine, but you don't really want this too much. But this would work like this. The thing is, this is how you get concave colliders, they call it. We don't see this term here because we use the opposite, but this would be concave colliders because it has a full collision. It's the actual mesh. Every part of it is there. If there was a hole here, you'd be able to go through the hole. But it's all there. Convex, on the other hand, if we were to hit this and turn this on, this is something I notice a lot of people don't know what it is. A convex collider is going to look more like this. So a convex collider, if you were to do that on this, will not have these notches in it. There cannot be any holes in it. It has to be a solid object. So whenever you set something convex, it will automatically do that. The engine will automatically do that. So your collider might look like this, all crazy, but if that was a convex collider, it's going to come in like the other collider and look actually like this in the engine, and this crazy collider is going to be gone. Which will be better for the physics because it's a less intense collider, but you won't have accurate collision because you won't have holes or any of that, which sometimes might be okay depending on the use case. As far as that goes, I don't know if there's anything else on, I guess, triggers. If you were to enable trigger, this collider is no longer collidable. You'll walk right through it, but it will become a trigger on the back end for the code that can activate things, that you could use it to activate a sound or an animation or whatever you can imagine. It could just be a trigger. I guess we can go down in here to go through some more. We have hype files. You can import directly hype files into this. Let's import one and show you. Let's import a hype. Should have some right on my desktop, I think. Yeah, let's do whatever cashew. Oh, of course, one of them is probably because of VRMs. I haven't tried that yet. Here we go. Doge's Fallout bike should work.
Oh.
So now it should also have brought in your JS code with it. It shows you all the details here. You can see the code that's on the bike.
Oh, that's
you could
very
edit it here if you want. The only thing you can't do so far is export it like this, but you would have to export it the same way through Hyperfy tools as a GOB and then reapply the script in World and rebuild it like that. I'm working on an export. I just kept hitting a weird bug with it every time I would try that. But yeah, you can import. And if you were to import something that's frozen, it will not import. It'll tell you it's frozen and it'll just show you frozen here. The script will say it's frozen, like it'll be locked. Now, like I was saying in the beginning, this didn't update. If there's, let me just, because it will be updated when you go to look at it, so I might as well show it updated. From disk. Yeah, here we go. There should also now be a box underneath hype files, the renamer. This comes in handy a lot for things because as you'll see, a lot of times when you make these colliders, it leaves this 001 at the end. You might not want that or whatever, just to make things, if you have a lot of files you imported from Sketchfab or something that have weird naming conventions. This is a full renaming system that'll rename anything you have selected in the scene. You could do, prefix, suffix renaming, find and replace specific things, all that, and then just batch rename them or clean them up. If you hit clean names, it'll take out any like hyphens, replace it with underscores, and make them all look a little nicer. And I suppose then the last thing would be batch stuff. So let's say you bring in a bunch of objects, right? You got, let's put a circle. Let's put a sphere. So you have these 3 objects. They could be anything, 3 guns in your game or whatever the case they are. And you want all 3 of these objects to import at the same time that you've been working on. They can also be, as you can see, anywhere in the scene. They don't have to be centered. Once you have them selected, you pick all your properties, create rigid body. As long as they're not named, that naming convention of LOD and collider, then it'll know they're separate objects. And it'll make separate objects of circle, sphere, and cube out of them. And also, if you have all of those selected and it knows they're all separate objects because they are all separate like this, and you do a batch export, it'll export all 3 of those separately as separate objects ready to go to be imported. This is actually using the same exact script that Ash built for the exporting of multiple objects. So thanks to him, we have that little batch export there. And I think that's pretty much the ins and outs. If there's any questions or anything that people are having a hard time with, or any suggestions.
I think it's really cool that you can, the triggers and being able to drag the hype in like that and see the code is super helpful. Maybe it's a good segue. Sko, did you want to go through like a really quick showcase of like how your quick flow with how you've been using Hyper tools?
Sure, a little
Hyperfy tools.
quick things. Try not to be boring.
Switch modes so I can get your screen going, Co.
All right.
I already covered the boring parts in the beginning.
I'll try not to be boring. Okay, so one of them is we're going to make a cube house. So I asked Midjourney for like a trim sheet, which is like something you can map all your polygons to. I will pick, I think it's this one. So if I want to make a quick house, I'm just going to cut it up a little bit. These are just adding faces to it. That's a door. And we'll make a window. Okay. And then we'll take the top in. So it's not a cube. Get these out of here. Boom. Then I have that material on a material. So there it is. And I can just select these. These are faces. I can project. And then over here, I can start playing with these. Let's say that, there's a door. So we can just pick the door, move that to a door, and select the faces. Still some finagling and stuff, but you can get a house pretty quick. You might want your window, or you might just want to fake all the windows. So you just project again. This is just like a little trim sheet, and you can make your windows. And if the back isn't as clean, you can do the same thing over here. And then this keeps the work down. Do it again and again. You can even do like a different part of it and make it small. As long as your colors are good, it doesn't really mess up. Then you can, sometimes for the roof, I like to, if you don't feel like going to Photoshop, you can just do it again. And then with low poly modeling, it doesn't really matter because you can just find something gray. Like there's a little box over here. There you go. Good enough. You have a little house, and then you can even go back in after and extrude stuff out a little bit. Bad point. All right, here we go. So this is just like small. You can do this over and over and get a whole village going. Start putting stuff in, and all right, there's that. There's one style. This right here is an example of I downloaded this truck, and you'll notice all this stuff over here. And I know it's beautiful with all the reflections and stuff, but Hyperfy, my rule of thumb is just to get rid of that stuff and just use the color. That just like got rid of most of the maps and the size. Blender also has a image editor if you don't like Photoshop, and you can image and check resize. It's at 1024, which is small enough, but you can do 256 resize, and then you have to save it. But now there's one texture on here, and it should be way smaller. There's that, and then this truck is from Meshy with the low export, and it's not bad. If you wanted to get wheels out of it, you could start ripping them out, replace them. Howie showed me a really cool baking tool, which I don't have a good example open, but you can bake hundreds of things at once. We did, this one is a McDonald's on one plane, but there was so many textures on this beforehand. So I was just getting my stuff together. There's like the 90s menus up here. So these are different, but most of the stuff is one texture. You got a hyper burger. But you can see like low textures give you that jagged image, but if you get over that, it's okay. I wanted to show you, so in Illustrator, been making a bunch of little quick worlds, but these are all paths. So you can design it all in 2D. These are just cubes and stuff. If you export as SVG, file save as SVG, you can import that into Blender as an SVG, which I did here. Import SVG. This comes in like this, really small. Then you hit F to bring it up. I like to start by object, move the origin to the geometry, make it big enough, much bigger. Okay, and then now I can start taking these pieces that I made. I did it kind of tactical, like this is a road, and this is a wall. But the one thing you have to do is object, convert, mesh, because these aren't meshes yet. So I know these are the curb, Control J, object, convert, mesh. So now those are mesh. That's a mesh. Mesh. All these buildings. So you can't just select them all and hit Control J. You have to deselect one and then shift click it. Then you can make it. I don't know why it does that.
It just has to have one selected to join two. It's joining all that to the mesh that you have selected.
Oh, cool. So I didn't know, but now we have that. Origin to geometry. Now that they're all meshes, we can edit mode, get all the faces. One thing, I don't like triangles until it's over. So my favorite tool is mesh, tries to quads. You can do this on your meshy models or anything, and it makes everything square. I left one in here. So this is not a keeper. You don't want this crap, but it's from the SVG coming over. So you would just remodel it with one of these, but it's fine. It still works. Control, there we go. We're gonna extrude these up. Now we have buildings. Let me bring our other guys in. Oops. You guys. You. Just since it's probably getting boring, I'm just gonna extrude everything right now. Without the stuff. This is my curb. And then, so your materials, it brings in an SVG mat. It's kind of nasty because it's from Adobe. So you don't want any Adobe stuff on your stuff. You come in here and just pick a couple materials. And then we will. There you go, Howie, New York Knicks. All right, red. Yeah, these colors are atrocious, but oops. Go, Control J. Then we will use our Hyperfy tools. Select it all. All. Geometry, rigid body. I select them all. I always do this just for fun. Make sure everything's collected. I like to go from here. Check this. Selected objects, custom property. I think that hyper demo. Boom. And go back to our world. Probably gonna be small, but we have world. Where's my guy? It's over here, sorry. And all two. It's small. We can still go in it though. But I'm king of the world. Oh, I have convex on. There's a good example of the convex.
Yeah, it is.
So the outside of the wall is allowing everything inside it to do that. But if we turned off convex, it would be like this one, which is the one I did earlier, just to test it out. Now we have a little world, which is better than spending all day, you know? Something about the height with this new tool always gets me. But hey,
we need to get some of these little bolt guys in here, rig them up and run around.
So that's a good way to demonstrate the convex, though. I'm glad that that actually happened to you just there, because like here's a good demonstration of why you would want convex sometimes too. Because like you see how now it's big for you to go inside. Like if you're building a city that you want to go inside and stuff, that's great. You're going to need complex colliders and stuff. But say you were just building it this size to put on a table as like a decoration in your world or something. Convex would probably be the better option because it's going to be more performant with colliders. It's going to make a simple collider really quick and easy. And it's you're never going to want to go inside there, you know, so you don't need crazy colliders. So if you're optimizing, sometimes convex will be like better for that use.
That might work better. Would that work better for like stuff having on different terrains or different things for like vehicle wise instead of having it, you know, like in that sense? Yeah. If you had that, I don't know if that would make it.
Yeah, not really. Some like if you have anything that's got to interact with the environment in a way that is like realistic, usually you don't want convex.
Gotcha.
Usually, you know, you make your own kind of simple convex collider in Blender or something, you know, but it wouldn't even be convex then. It would just be very simple.
Yeah. The last thing I'd probably show is in Meshy. I like the AI texturing tool because it doesn't give you junk geometry. Like if you looked at that truck I made, it was pretty cool, but it's like, it's messed up. This is an actual modeled truck that some guy made, and it actually makes sense if you're going to start moving it and things. But the actual truck I had, it was all like merged together. And this one was good. This one right here. So it looks good from the outside, but if you actually want to use it, you know, it's not even connected. You're going to end up deleting this out, doing surgery. So if you upload a healthy truck into Meshy, you can get stuff like this truck is pretty healthy. It's got all good stuff going on. And then you make a Tacoma out of it. And you get to keep your polys the same. This is like a agave that Meshy made. And it's crap. It looks cool, but once you go to like merge it, everything just becomes nuts down there, and it tends to do it. So for the top,
mesh is really good for filler stuff, for stuff that's never going to move and just be like filler. But if stuff is going to be animated and moving, yeah.
And that reminds me, like, even if your texture's messed up, Blender's really good at painting. You go to texture paint. This is a meshy texture, and it might be off a little bit, and you can just like use your clone brush. I think it's control click, and you can paint, clone, do things you'd want to do, change the color. But so you're not really stuck with it. It's always worth your time, especially if you have a good mesh, because like this is really simple. But we got like a Mexican crate out of it with some graffiti. I mean, it's a little tequila bar, but it messed up the sink. So we just paint that out. It made like fake metal, so you don't have to worry about the shaders. And this is probably my favorite. So this one's like, this is a tarp for the taco stand. And it made tarp. I even put the little concrete in that thing, and you can put your own tag on here. It made a goat. Let's see. Yeah.
Very cool.
That's about it, I think.
Super quick, like one cool thing you mentioned about the painting. Seth, I'm gonna say is the name. I hope I forwarded it to the wrong chat. I don't know if I can even get it to this stage. Yeah, here we go. Realize that you can paint vertex colors in Blender and they'll show up in Hyperfy. So one cool way to add some cool colors.
True. Sculpting tools are pretty fun too. If you want to just like mess stuff up. Because like if you can even do it with this guy. I believe. I know he's got a, oh yeah, it works. But there's a bunch of tools. I think my final thing, which is one of my favorite tools, it's not really Hyperfy related, Mesh Cube. You can, if you're not like a modeler and you don't like going into edit mode and all this crap and picking verts, that kind of takes a while to learn. But if you go into sculpting, there's a magic tool they added called box trim, and it has a lasso and line and poly. So line, you can cut your shape. So now without knowing many tools, you can make whatever you want. Then it has the modifier over here, which it shouldn't be so dumb to set up. It's actually really dumb. You have to add, one second. So I will do the lasso tool, and then you can have union, and you can just draw. And then if you want to get rid of it, you do difference. You can clean your stuff up. And you can start to make really interesting stuff. Sandbox mode. And then if you go to this, yeah, it gives you the nasty mesh, and there's different remesh tools. I use this one, quad remesh. Put in 1,000 and remesh it. And we got a mesh. And you can go back in, sculpt it again. Oh. You can start doing
kind of crazy because what you're actually doing in that process is hard surface modeling, but you're doing it in the sculpting tool, which is like counterintuitive to classic modeling. Like usually the hard surface modeling is done like in the normal viewport, and then the sculpting is separate.
It's funny.
It's kind of funny.
It's like I do 3D printing and I refuse to use RhinoCAD. So I use stuff like this, and then I just have to print it 3 or 4 times to get it right. You know what I mean?
I would actually like if that tool was just in the viewport. Not
it would be awesome. The problem with for most people is that You have to go into sculpting, then you have to go over here and like do the difference in additive and join. If it was just like a PlayStation controller looking thing, and you could just like boom, 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 it'd be really good because you don't even have to poly model in here because now we have an organic shape, but we can line trim it. Right this way. There you go, something organic already. And then, yeah, it gives you messed up geometry. They just hit it with a remesh. And then that gives you too many polygons, and you go down to 40. See what you get. Boom. And if you want to be really cheap, you can dissolve edges, and everything should be real. Yep, it's all connected. And you have a car. Yeah, that's about it.
It's a boat.
It's a boat.
car.
I actually have one more thing I totally forgot to show for Hyperfy tools. So if you want, I'm show that real quick.
Hope I didn't knock everyone out.
That was great, Sco. Thanks for covering so much so quickly.
Okay. Last hidden feature in Hyperfy tools that I completely forgot is the rig converter, which makes things easier since we all use Mixamo so much, as we spoke about before. When you bring in stuff from Mixamo, it's the Mixamo rig. So this VRM to Mixamo converter comes up whenever you click on an armature now. You'll see this is the VRM rig. This is just a normal VRM at the moment. I can convert it to Mixamo, which gives it the whole Mixamo rig here. If you brought this in from Mixamo as an animation or something, you could just convert it back to VRM and give you the full VRM rig, which helps with a lot of stuff.
That's huge.
That is all.
Now, can we get a meshy rig converter?
Yeah. I can add that to it. I just need to see what the meshy rig looks like.
Yeah, the one thing I had a roadblock the other day with that quadruped. I couldn't really think about the right way to do it, but if you could get a quadruped in there, like how do you make?
We should do a Blender how-to day one day, maybe like VRM how-to or something like that, because that would be a good time to show that. Like showing how to do quadruped VRMs. First of all, I've never showed it in like a public scenario like that, you know. That would be good, and I really haven't seen many people do it. So
we should definitely do some VRM stuff and go more into rigging and character stuff. Quadruped too, yeah. We got companions, followers now. We need pets. Awesome, Doge. Do you have anything you want to add about some of the ways that you've been making one of the coolest worlds that exists right now in V2?
Yeah, I got some I can show real quick. I'm bringing up. I'm over here in Blender real quick. All right. Let's see here. Let me get my screen up. I was actually getting some more different weapons and stuff to bring in. So let me see. Let me get my screen up. Let me see screen one. There we go. All right, so been pretty much I was using in the Hyperfy tools a little bit here, getting it ready. I've already kind of got it set up. Another tool, I guess you would say, that would come in handy, especially for like texturing. Shout out how he showed me this one as well. The GLB texture tools, and essentially what that lets you do is whatever kind of item you have there in your world or your Blender scene. You'll notice here, once you have your file actually saved up here, I'll just give it a little save real quick. You will be able to see pretty much almost every texture that you have within this file, right, on your item. You would be able to then go down, like if you want to, up here at the top, says GPU compute. You can choose your file size, whatever you'd like it to be. I'd normally do 1024 just to see what that goes as first. You would come down here to the texture settings, show all textures, operate on all textures in this list. So that way, once you unpack them, right? You would oh, all right, I've already got them unpacked. But essentially, you would unpack them into the file that you have your save file as, right? Then you would hit scale image, and it would scale them down to that size or whatever, 1024 or below, respectively, depending on what it is and how it needs to be. You would then pack it, just hit that back, and it would add them all back to your materials. Then you could just essentially, at this point, I was kind of getting ready to go through there. You would just hit select all, A. You can hit the A button, it'll select all. I'll go through and I'll hit export as a GLB, go to my assets, and I'll just do this, Fallout rifle. There we go. .glb. All right, so I can come here. I've got some presets set up already, but this is essentially where you would go to, just kind of anything you wanted, like your textures going in and exporting as a JPEG instead. You would come down here to export under materials, select JPEG format, and then pretty much anything else you want. If it's just selected items, if you're doing more custom properties, kind of set up like that. And then you would just hit export. I'll pop over here. As you can see, it's kind of my world at the moment. A little bit of stuff. So then I could take that model, which you see here. I got this. This is the laser rifle. It's already kind of on there, picking up. Give it a couple little rounds fired. Then I can drop that. Take this, bring it in. Change the model up to the model we just had there, which it should be right around. Where's it at? FOFO. GLB. I know I just had it in here. There we go. Fallout rifle. Bam. And now you see it swapped that over to it. And it might need a little bit of adjustment. Here we go. Let me see. There we go. In the hand now, but now you see, now it's, I need to adjust a little bit more for that anchor point. But just simple as that. And then you can, all right, let me drop him. I'm still in that mode. Yeah. And now you got some weapons. But that's just kind of one way I've been doing it. Look, it was last night, all these laser rifles and stuff. Me and Sko was in here messing around. But like I said, I think that overall probably at the end of the day, when you're wanting to make a world and you're going in, you can always splurge, right, on certain things. If you've got your avatars and, they're more, up there in size, or, with textures, and you don't want stuff, you can have that and still have a good actual, like texture size on it. For instance, this building is a good example. Seem like it's got a lot of stuff there, but that building in particular, the Little Caesars, is, let me see here. Where's it at? Little Caesars. It's one of the early ones. Somewhere's in here. There we go. Yeah. See what I mean? 771 kilobytes just for the file size, but the texture size on it is 16 megabytes, for that there. So, but overall, that's kind of if you're going to have a bigger world, it's always best to have at least the majority of stuff. If they're bigger items, like the monorail back there, right? At one point, that was sitting at 300 and something texture size, even though the file size was like 12 megabytes. And then, a little bit of getting that down, some baked lighting into it, better textures, and now it's, it's sitting at, I think, like 70 something, which is still big, but the whole world itself is sitting at, let's see, I'm only using 2.2 gigs now in the browser, and there's a lot of stuff that could be cleaned up. I think there's somebody else in here going around I was seeing a minute ago, but that's I think that's about it though. It's probably on my side, just really optimization in that sense.
Yeah, that's pretty good when a fresh world right now starts out at like 700 megabytes anyways, right?
Give or take 700 to 800, and then whatever you start to put
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So considering everything that you have going on right now, that's not very much like space that you've used for as much as you have happening.
Hyperfy, when they did that last little push a few weeks ago, I think when they fixed that memory leak, that kind of helped a lot of stuff. I don't know if they did more optimization stuff on the back end to kind of help with everything, but it definitely made a difference because, I mean, you know, unless we have a bunch of people in here, like, I mean, 6, 7 people, I haven't noticed it going above like 3 gigs in the browser. Even when we bring in some, you know, big stuff items, just testing a bunch of different things, it's always still kind of running smooth. But, yeah.
How about that camera system you got in there?
Camera system is probably one of my favorite things so far. Shout out Shifty if you're down there listening. When you had that duck going, that duck unlocked a lot of stuff, man. I think that yeah, a lot of stuff what y'all are doing as well, kind of changing the trajectory of how Hyperfy is going to be able to be used. You know. Oh, crash landed. I need to put a base down here. Then I think about it. We got the portals and stuff. I could put a bunker. But yes.
You hop over to my world. I put in the side chat. You could see the quadruped VRMs we were talking about, the 4 legs. Just go, you'll see the ones out. You'll see how I got them working. I also have the example here of the little Tamagotchi style Digimon thing I'm working on. I'm gonna try to get them fighting later. They should already, but I don't think they detect each other properly yet.
Oh, hold on now. Wait a minute. I gotta. Oh, we popping out pets now? Wait a minute. Hold on. Where's my companion? Oh, my guy's up here. I gotta change him. Hold on.
We could drop a link to Tatted Island too, or Tatted Aliens.
Yes, I will. Yep.
If you guys want to check out some of these worlds, what's going on, hop in, see what's going.
Is that the actual quadruped rig, or is that your?
No, that's the one how I was showing you to rig it with the weird T pose or whatever.
For you.
You see what I mean? How like the front legs, like it looks like they're actually walking, but it's really kind of like smoke and mirrors. They're really just swinging their arms, you know?
Cool.
But it works good enough that like even all the rest of like the normal like emotes and stuff that you would normally do don't look that bad. Some of them do, but for the most part, they all work pretty well. But if you made like you could easily make custom ones for that, you know, and then really make it look smooth.
Bro, we got a whole freaking like petting zoo over here, man. What is this? These things. I haven't seen this many Win Lambos walking around since ever. Yeah.
Literally never. This is the first time this has ever happened, actually.
Yo.
Here, let's add a couple more. I have a few more that I should just save this world like this, or save a world like this with all of them in it.
Oh my guy's over there just a wandering. Hold on. I'm glad to see it actually still works too in here. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
In other words,
so there should be a new one walking around somewhere.
Oh, I
These little guys are AI too.
Yeah, these are the Digimon pet things that I've been working on. You can there's actually commands you can do in the chat. You can call them by name. They'll recognize their name first. So like if you pick one, type Wen Lambo and then the number and then type space stats, for example, first. That'll bring up the stats above his head. They might even have a help command, I think. But they do like the 3 buttons above their head too don't work yet, but they work as commands. So the feed, the play, the sleep, those function as commands. So if you did like Wen Lambo 206 space feed, he'll do his like feed action or whatever. You can give them all emotes. Can you view them in here? Doge, view one real quick since you're the one streaming. Look at the stats, the inspect panel for one of the Wen Lambos that are running around. No, I mean just like click on it. Click on it and open the inspect panel.
Do the R.
Yeah, hit R on one. All right, you see how it's got all the animations? You can set its name there, and then you can override all the animations. It's set to use all the ones by default that your default VRM uses, but you can override them and give it like custom ones if you want. But they have their own stats and stuff. If you saw the one with the stats above his head, you might have to type it, Doge. Yeah. Now do the when Lambo in the chat and bring the stats up. You got to do the spaces and everything. Just type it exactly how it is there, yeah.
And is there a better resource for like quad emotes? Mixamo still good, or is there a better place?
No, actually, there's no good resource for quadruped emotes because I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do quadruped ones like this. The only quadrupeds I've ever seen VRM, and I don't even know they were VRM, was like in VR. They probably weren't actually VRM. They were probably just GLBs, to be quite honest. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody else do VRM four-legged animals like this before.
I've never seen it.
So I'm pretty sure the best way would be to just everything has to be custom. Like we should probably just dedicate like some time and make a bunch of custom quadruped animations, like basic ones, just walking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we did that, it would look so much better. Like it would literally look like they're like normal.
Yeah, we got Valiant saying now. At the moment, no. That'd be a great resource to build.
Yeah, and we could do like I said, we do a Blender course or something one day. I could do like an example of how to make these, because it's kind of a funny way to do it, actually. Like as I showed Sko. They're actually just normal. They're not quadrupeds. They're just normal rigs. It's mostly small.
Oh yeah, they're just
like the front legs are actually
on their hands and knees.
Like if you equipped it a gun, it could equip the gun in the front and everything. So like it still functions like a normal person, which is good, because then it could still do things. It could be a game character or whatever still,
We want to Blender jazz hands tutorial.
All the spring bones and stuff work on it and everything too. As you can see with this guy with the spider arms, he's got the full spring bones and stuff, but they don't actually work yet in V2.
Now I did something. I overwrote my actual Voyager model with the motorcycle. So now let me fix that real quick.
Very cool. Valiant, I saw you kind of hopped in a little later there, but if you scroll up, there's a little model we made on Meshy in the very beginning. You can make them jazz hands if you want. There's a GLB. Add some texture to it. Very cool. Well, that covered a lot of different things. I'm doing some VRMs. One of these next times would be handy. Scrolling up. I tried to bump it to you, but it wasn't letting me for whatever reason. We got the brand bolt and the smiley bolt up there, past all the links.
I need to get them brought in. Yeah, let me get them downloaded.
Got them. But yeah, I think that's, we've been here about, we can kick it and hang out some more, but
Up in the
as far as what we were as far as what we were trying to cover, I think that covers it for about now, right? If anyone has anything that they would want to share, we have a little bit of a smaller group right now. If you have some skills on anything and want to showcase, feel free to mention it, and you can hop on and share it as well. Otherwise, I will pop open. I'm trying to just to give one more sneak peek to Valiant here. We made little Glocky earlier. One's animated. Oh wait, I have to be over here.
Glocky.
He was Bolty, now I'm just naming him Glocky. It should load. Oh yeah, we went to Meshy. Oh yeah, it's in the side chat too if you want the GLB and you want to retexture it. There you go. We did a quick rigging and animating on here. It was caught on his pants, but try to add him into Doja's world later maybe and see if we can get him shooting again.
Get him going, yeah.
Maybe we'll do some rigging with him, play around. Oh, look at that butt. Glocky. Bottom. All right.
He's just wearing a trash bag.
All right, cool. How's everyone feeling?
Good.
Good. Go download this real quick.
I'm not trying to push this out. I mean, we're welcome to kick it and hang out. I just felt like it was good to say, like, hey, let's spend like an hour and a half-ish.
I mean, we could even drop down to a regular chat if you want. This way we could all stream and
the general. Yep.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
All right. Yeah, meet y'all in there. We are moving to the general chat, gang.
That way everyone can participate and talk and share.